Great. So thank you so much for joining us this evening or this afternoon, wherever you are in the world. And welcome, Emery, welcome, Greta, and everybody. So I would like to start, before handing over to Emery, by just briefly touching on a huge subject, which is trauma. Right, and we've all got it. We've all undergone some kind of trauma in our lives. Even being born is a traumatic experience, because you're coming through from this place of darkness and safety into the world, and we all experience life events differently. I see trauma as a type of sort of karmic package, or like things that we have to work with in our life. And they have lessons. There's gifts and there's lessons, and it can be hard. It can be painful and, sad. Some people never overcome their trauma. And I understand it's a huge subject to just touch on in like just a few minutes. But I would like for us all to just have a little go. I invite you to, please don't feel obligated. If you want to pass, of course, that's fine. But just to spend like a minute or two just talking about how you deal with trauma and what you do to help you to live more gracefully in life, going through what you've gone through. And I'll share first. And, I come from sort of very toxic upbringing that was very chaotic and, full of trauma. And, it's really taught me to be present. I think that's the one thing, and to be kind to myself. And when I'm really sad and sort of carrying those events from the past and bringing them into the now, just to be gentle with myself. That's that I think is my lesson. And to walk away from certain people that bring me down, because I cannot be around those people, and to surround myself with loving people. Two friends yesterday told me that they loved me, and I really needed to hear it in that moment. I really needed to hear it, and it touched me so deeply. It's the little things, right? It's the little things. So there's me. I'm gonna pass that over to Greta now. How do you deal with trauma? How do you handle it?
Well, first of all, Alexis, I love you.
I love you too. Thank you so much.
I love you,
Truly
everyone.
beautiful. Absolutely. Yeah. Lots of
Yeah,
love here for all of us.
this is a really great question. And it's so funny how trauma can be so different to everyone. And how we experience trauma has nothing to do with the severity of it. It's not like there is a scale going from pure love and no trauma at all to the worst trauma ever. And wherever your traumatic experience falls on that scale is how it affects you, because it doesn't work like that. So whatever small or big trauma you experience can be huge. And I've my childhood was mostly happy, and then when I think back to it, I'm like, some of these things I could have used as an excuse to just fail at life and be a drug addict in the gutters, but I didn't, which I'm very grateful for. And how I deal with trauma now, um, I got to think about it when you asked, is actually I've set goals for my different areas of life, goals for how I want my relationships to be, my career, abundance, health, where I live, all of that. And I work towards these goals continuously, and I work with releasing whatever's blocking me from getting there, or sometimes even with just accepting that everything is okay as it is. And the way I work is every week I go see someone like Anna or like Jennifer or like one of my favorite facilitators, practitioners, and have them guide me through a session where I can tell them what I want to achieve, and then whatever needs to come up comes up. And that is oftentimes trauma. So I don't necessarily start from the trauma, but I start from what I want to achieve or what the trauma causes to be off. And then from there, it kind of untangles, and with Anna, we go on a journey that's just amazing. And, so I find that wonderful because it allows me to spend time with Anna and the others. And I get help and community, and I'm held and I'm supported through releasing of this trauma.
That's so beautiful. And you reminded me when you said something of when I was experiencing a really dark moment the other day. I listened to Abraham. I don't know if all of you know about Abraham, the channel Teachings through Esther Hicks. And it reminded me exactly that, to just be where you are and just go through it, rather than trying to push it away, kind of thing. And that's all that I needed to do. I just needed to sit with it and accept where I was. Thank you, Greta, for sharing that.
Thank you.
Jessica, would you like to share?
I will. Actually, I have to thank Emery too, because she did a astrological reading for me and helped me start to learn my star map. I guess that's what we want to call it, right?
Wow, yeah.
And through that, I learned I have to go all the way through it. I mean, I've known my whole life, I've experienced have to go all the way through something, but being able to just know that's part of just how it is for me, and being able to understand that and accept it has been huge. Obviously, I still have the emotions and all those feelings that I'm still trying to figure out and live and deal with, but I'm not hiding them anymore.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Well, they say that a problem shared is a problem halved, right? So just finding your community and finding your people to just energetically hold you is so key to healing. That's beautiful. I'm glad that that we found each other. Thank you for sharing. And Anna, would you like to share about this?
Yeah, it's kind of a huge question,
It really is. I appreciate that.
And I experienced a very severe trauma as a child that informed my entire life, affected my entire life. And it's part of why I'm a healer. I mean, it's a huge part of it. And it's interesting how most of my clients are trauma survivors. I mean, everybody, I think, has, as we were saying, some form of trauma. But I was thinking as everyone was speaking, something came to me that trauma has been my greatest teacher. It's been my greatest teacher. Wow. Because it's taught me who I am, how strong I am, and it sent me on my own journey of self-discovery, spiritual, evolution, and I realize now, like, I wouldn't be who I am now without that trauma. So in a way, I'm grateful to it. I'm not going to say that the trauma was fabulous, because it wasn't. It was horrific. But
well, I
see now. Yeah, I see now that it was my teacher. It was, something that has made me who I am today. And how do I deal with it today? I mean, it's always a work in progress. It's like, you uncover the layers and you go deeper and deeper and deeper. I know that I've done the majority of the big work around it, but there's still, you keep going and going and going and going. You see like all the subtle things of how it
Lifelong,
has
baby.
made you who you are. Yeah. So now, I mean, when something happens that either triggers the trauma or a pattern that the trauma caused in my life, I observe it and I do my very best to just sit with it and not be triggered by it and not go into reactive mode, but to stay in respond mode. So yeah.
You touched upon something really key there, I think, and very, very powerful for all of us, is that it's a teacher. It's a teacher, and the sooner that we can learn the lesson, then the sooner that we can grasp what it is that we need to take from that lesson to start to heal and to move on. And, it's not like we're healed and it's done. Sometimes it is, but, it's part of our process, and very, very important point you raised, Anna. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Matthew, would you like to share?
Sure. So going off of what Anna just shared, yeah, I've been dealing with my own trauma of being like, okay, what was the lesson behind it? Rising like the phoenix from the ashes, and just doing my own shamanic journey. And yesterday I did a guided meditation and it was geared towards more of my starseed's origin. And halfway through, I couldn't finish it because I was bawling, because I was remembering where I was coming from, and it was working with inner child, and the earth mothers were coming and sharing unconditional love. And it was so overwhelming that I just got so teary-eyed, and I had to stop what I was doing and just embraced it. And I'm like, oh, thank you guys. Wow. And I'm like, oh, they don't want to come back. And they're like, no, you need to come back to help humanity. Once you're done in this lifetime, you're done, and then you can come back home. And I'm like, good.
Wow. Well, you've just reminded me of, something we've talked about on other sacred segments, and, particularly with Anna on the last session, about how much heavenly help there is. And we forget this, right, when we're going through it. There's just an abundance of heavenly help waiting for us to say, please just help me. And we have to ask, and then they come in, But beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing, Matthew.
Thank you.
I just want to acknowledge Lisa's share, and I think everybody can see it in the chat. I'd just like to briefly read it. Haven't had the extreme trauma that some of you have had, but I think for me, there are levels of trauma, and it accumulates. It becomes extremely impactful and painful, and I'm still recognizing my personal trauma and not burying, which has been my usual response. But I have much work to do to recognize. I accept it. I know that it's who I am, and work through to my personal growth and benefit from it. That has such great awareness in there and acceptance. And thank you for sharing, Lisa. Chantel, would you like to share?
Sure. Okay, so I think the beginning of working through my trauma in my childhood was, it started with a coping mechanism with me being in my head, which is, kind of a blessing and a curse. Me being in my head or retreating internally was a way to escape the trauma, but that also allowed me to understand what was being done and how I felt about it. And with me being able to understand that, I was able to seek help from others. And I've been incredibly blessed to have, I call them my random angels. They're not random, but the way the people come into my life just to help me has been tremendous. And it's been a way to work through the trauma through the years, work through it, and understand it, work through it, and unlearn some of the behaviors that I gained through the trauma. And it's been incredible. It started with religion, and then spirituality, to traditional therapy, and then to non-traditional therapy. And me being open to different forms of healing has definitely helped me continue understanding the learned behaviors of the trauma, and coming out of those behaviors, and evolving into a new me. It's a continuous journey. I'm still on it, but I'm so thankful.
I'm thankful too to have you here tonight, and for your share. Thank you for sharing. It reminded me of that saying, you know, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And there are synchronicities that happen in life where exactly when you're ready, you know, the teacher does appear. And the teacher can be like a child or a therapist, or, you know, a loved one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. Okay, so Emery, would you like to share?
Sure. I'd love to piggyback a lot of the things that were said, and I also just have my astrology brain on right now, and so all these astrological things popped into my head about trauma. When we look at the birth chart with astrology, we look at Uranus for trauma. And what's really cool about that is that, you know, Mercury is a planet that's about communication and messages and intake and outtake of information, and Uranus is thought of as the higher octave of Mercury. And so if you think about trauma through that lens, it's like there's a message, there's a story, there's information that doesn't just occur in a fleeting way or in a situational way. It reoccurs and reoccurs in some pattern or some way where it is so brought to our attention that we don't get to ignore it. And I feel like it's like a way for our soul to speak. You know, to us, for lack of a better word. And Uranus is also like the planet of being outside of the box and not just straight laced in a certain way. And so when I hear people talking about trying different religions and different spiritual paths and different therapies, I'm like, yes, that's Uranus. That's how we heal something that seems, you know, very like, it's like somebody's poking you over and over, and then they're punching you, and then they're hitting you over the head with a, you know, with a sledgehammer, is how trauma can feel when we don't attend to it. And so to have all those different modalities available, that's, you know, what Uranus would ask us for. And then I also thought of the DNA messaging, how when we don't bring up and facilitate healing of trauma, it becomes wired in our DNA, and we get to pass that along to future generations and to our community. And when we do heal it, that DNA and that metaphysical ripple goes backwards and forwards, that we're not just starting at ground zero and we have to, you know, come up from the rubble, that we can actually enable healing forwards and back. And then I loved what Matthew said about the starseed information, because I feel like that can also be very helpful, and other dimensional healing and other you know, dimensions are there to help us, and other stars and star beings. And that's something I was going to mention today later in my talk, so I won't say much about it now. But I think, you know, being present without judgment and not burying, those are two things that for sure that I work on a lot. And just appreciate that people are here today willing to even, like, that's our opening discussion, people, like so thank you for being here and being willing to have such a deep and open conversation right from the top. It's feel it.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody. And I would just like to hand over to you officially now, Emery, and just if you would like to, I'd just invite you to tell us a little bit about, you know, the work that you do as well, as you lead us in. Thank you.
You're welcome. And let me know how much time I have so I can stay on focus.
Well, anywhere between 15 and 25 minutes is good. And then during that time, and even after, for a few minutes, to, you know, open it up to the group at any point that you see fit.
Awesome. Okay, cool. I have some cool ideas for today. I'm Emery, also known as EP Archer. I am a shamanic healer, a metaphysical practitioner, sound healer, astrologer, musician, all around Renaissance-y type of a creature, here on a journey of transformation and healing, and here to connect and collaborate in ways that are meaningful for healing, higher consciousness, artistry, and love. And I do that through every modality possible. I teach, I play music, I do drama and theater. Any possible way that I can, basically layering life with healing, no matter what it is that we're doing, is sort of my mantra. So, if I'm teaching, I'm not just teaching. And if I'm singing, it's not just singing. And to be able to spread that metaphysical benefit to as many people as possible is something that, is very important for me. And today I'm here in more of a capacity of an astrologer to give you a little bit of a forecast and outlook. This is a very intense season and time. I know you've probably heard that like a million times, like since last year, but it still is. And to find ways of looking at that in a way that would be helpful, rather than like, oh shit, it's an eclipse, sort of like, well, what do I do with that? Like, thanks for telling me, but what can I actually take action on, and how can I harness and utilize those energies? And to me, astrology is a really cool language, just like music is, and just like speaking more than one written or verbal language is. It's another way of us learning and communicating. When I learn words in Italian or Spanish, there might be one word in English and there's 5 in Spanish. And I can be more descriptive in Spanish than I can in English. And the word Pluto might not mean anything to you if you're new to astrology, but I bet you've heard of Hades, and those two are associated. And so finding associations and ways of communicating with our deepest self and others is one of the big drawing points for astrology to me. Now, that being said, I know it can be very overwhelming if you haven't, quote, studied all the planets and all the signs and all that. It can be like way too much information. And I don't want to be overwhelming, but I thought of a cool exercise. I would just love if you all would type in the chat, do you have any experience with astrology? If you do, will you just type to me like what you know? Like, I know my sun sign, or I've heard of it, or I know all 12 planets that are usually calculated in a chart. Just let me know what you know. And then I'm going to do kind of a collaborative exercise together to teach you about astrology based on sort of your, your experience. Oh, that's awesome, Greta. Woo! A little bit on the signs. I know at least 2 people have had a birth chart reading. And then I'll type as well as you're typing. And then very little what we shared. Scorpio sun. Oh, cool. Your top 3. In astrology, when you introduce yourself, if you know your sun, moon, and rising, that's kind of a way of introducing yourself, which gives actually a lot of information about you. So Scorpio sun, Gemini rising, Taurus moon. Awesome. I love the Scorpio Taurus continuum. I was just talking about that with a client the other day who wants to embody more of the continuum rather than just the Taurus side or just the Scorpio side. And that's where my nodal axis is. So that's my destiny versus past life journey, Taurus to Scorpio. And I wore my Taurus shirt today for the occasion. Sag sun, Leo rising, Virgo moon. I'm a Sag sun with a moon in Leo, Chantel. Awesome. Capricorn sun, Scorpio moon, and Capricorn rising. Double cap, powerful out in the world. Scorpio is awesome for healing. Gemini sun, Pisces moon, and Aries rising. Fire, water, and air. I love it for healing and being able to harness mutable modalities of healing for yourself in a way that really feels passionate to you, and then that inspires others. Alexis, that's so cool. Leo sun, Aquarius rising, Libra moon, coming to higher levels of consciousness with different modalities of information to heal the connection that happens when emotions are there and we are loved unconditionally. Jessica, I love that too. Awesome. So I just type a little bit of information in. Planets are energies and signs are personalities, and houses are areas or venues, if you will, to express that. And so if you have access to your birth chart, and I'll just disclaimer everybody, if anyone has like a specific astrological question you'd like to ask me, I'll type my email address into the chat, and you're welcome to send me a short question through email as part of the benefit of being in this group in this session today. And oh, cool. Yeah, I have a couple different astrology. I would love to design a new astrology deck. I have a couple, but they are sort of missing parts that I wish were there as a professional astrologer. Those are great to work with too, because you can draw a card and focus just on one thing. You know, maybe it's Mercury, or maybe it's Cancer, or maybe it's Uranus, like we were just talking about. But decks are great because it's sort of like, where do I start? And the deck can be universal consciousness coming to you saying, hey, maybe you should look at Pluto. And you can be like, okay, what's Pluto? Where are we going with that? And it can be a great way to kind of dive in. Perfect. Planet signs and houses. And then a shortcut for everyone too, once you get started with astrology, is each planet and house and sign are there. They have groupings and association. So for example, if you know about Aries, the sign Aries, the first sign of the zodiac, Aries is also associated with the planet Mars and the first house. So if you only know about Aries and you see something that has to do with Mars, or you see something that has to do with the first house, you can put that Aries information and kind of cross-populate it as you start to get to know astrology. So rather than trying to learn 36 things at once, you can just learn 12 and start there and sort of expand your population. And I teach that way in some of my beginner classes, which I offer through Zoom. So I'll make sure to let Alexis know the next sort of beginner astro class if anyone is interested. Okay, well, I'd love everyone to vote if you would rather talk about signs or planets today. We're going to eliminate houses because I think it's more confusing for beginners. And we're going to do a writing exercise if you're comfortable, and you can write it on your personal notebook or on a document or into the chat. So get something to write with. And we're going to just develop your astrology language for either the planets or the signs, whatever y'all feel like would most benefit you today in this moment. Okay, 2 votes for planets so far. Both if there's time. All of it. Another vote for planets. And then Alexis, am I able to share the screen?
Yes, I will make you co-host right now.
Okay.
That's done.
Awesome.
And if it doesn't work, just let me know and I'll make you host.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to share something that looks a little bit complicated, but for those of you that are learning to associate, it will be helpful at some point. And I drew this myself, so it is a little bit messy to read. But I want to go through the planets with sort of the circular chart in mind. Is everybody able to see it okay? Okay. And so I can also draw on this, and I will draw and point to what we're doing. That way it's not too terribly confusing. So if we start with Mars, Here's the writing exercise. We're going to say a planet, and you're going to just write down what your association is with the planet. It doesn't matter if it's right or wrong or textbook. It's just when you hear the word Mars, what do you think of? And I'm going to give you just about 30 seconds to write about each planet. And then we'll do about like 30 seconds to popcorn share in the chat. And that way somebody's idea of Mars might help spark you. So Mars, you can see on my chart, I've written energy and assertiveness. I am, self. If you know anything about Roman and Greek mythology, those play in a lot with the planets and sometimes give helpful storylines to think about. But go ahead and write for about 30 seconds about Mars. And then I'm going to pop Mars into the chat. And if anyone wants to type their thoughts into the chat, you can as well. Oops. Yep. I love being metaphysical students because when you think of like we were talking about blue when we just were signing on and the meanings of blue, like the presence of the divine, or that there's not as many flowers that are blue, like blue tansy is one that comes to mind. That's a great essential oil that creates peace by interlaying the layers of our emotions that are trapped, right? So it's not just like, yay, I feel peaceful and sunny. It's like, oh, let me dig up all this stuff and release it so that I can feel peace. So when I see red, red is a color that I would associate with rooting and the Muladhara and the base chakra. And so if you think of somebody who has a strong sense of self and can take action and in the world, or can go to war or can fight for what they believe in, that person is usually someone who is rooted and they know who they are, right? And so I love that the color red is associated with it just because that's also a color that means I'm rooted and I'm grounded and I'm sure. And then I know a couple people said masculine, and I am very LGBTQIAA+++, 1,000 more initials that we all now have. Happy Pride Month, everyone. And I like to reframe masculine and feminine for astrology as inward, outward, or yin and yang, or internal, external. If you study like the Myers-Briggs or any of those kind of things where we're talking about introverted, extroverted, we can kind of use those kind of modalities as well. But basically, culturally, if you take the associations of what masculine means, it does mean someone who can take action. It does mean someone who can take charge. It does mean someone who's able to make their way in the world and make a living and to fight if needed and take care of the family. And that can totally be a man or a woman or an in-between or a non-binary person or a fairy or a goddess or anything. And so I want to just add that little personal reframing that I do. I do a lot of readings for people of all different backgrounds. And I think putting your own spin on that is really important so that you can access it, right? Just because I'm born with female body parts doesn't mean I can't access my masculinity or my external or my power, basically. And so I want to empower everyone to do that as well. Okay, let's go to the chart again. And if anyone has questions or wants to talk to, go ahead and like pop in and share. But I'm just going to do speed racer version so we can do as many things as possible to help you. And then just know if any of you are writers or creative writers, the exercise that we're doing, we just made a list. And what you can do is there should be a few things on your list or on other people's list that pop out to you like, oh, like I hadn't thought about war or I hadn't thought about rooting. The ones that pop out to you and kind of make a little signal to you, highlight those or make a little mark and later go back and make another list just based on that word. So if the word that pops out is rooting, make a whole nother list on rooting. And you can actually go a lot of layers deep with this. It's a great writing exercise, but it's also a great exercise to learn about what your soul and your language and your dialogue is trying to tell you at this moment. And the exercise will be different and change depending on when you do it. So doing it a few times a year is a nice way to kind of just develop your language, not just for astrology, for anything really. You could do it as a channeling for your own healing. You could do it on any type of work project. So go through that list, and if there's anything that sticks out each time we do this, sort of mark those, and later you can go different layers deep if you like with the exercise. Of course, we did Mars, so now we have to go on to Venus. So pop into the chat with Venus. You can see that I've written I have, that we have pleasure and love and security and possessions and Taurus associated there. And we'll go into the chat. My keyword for Mars: action, passion, inspiration. And really self is really important for Mars. It's so important that if you know someone that is an Aries or with Aries placement, to really see them in a light of this is a very independent self journey that they get to take ownership of, and seeing it from that lens completely. Of course, we're all on our own journey, but Aries especially is fighting for the right to be who they are in the world. And so if anything feels abrasive or warlike or combative, it's because that is exactly what they're here to fight for that. And when they do, the independence and the inspiration and the energy, the sheer energy of it will light you up, and you will love your Aries compatriots, even if it's somebody that you've butted heads with. But to see it that way. Thank you for the question. Okay, so yes, we're doing Venus, which we know is the goddess of love. I can't spell today, but just ignore that. You can sound it out and know what I sort of mean. Good art. It's interesting because another way of reframing like masculine and feminine is like reframing what does goddess mean and what does God mean. And the images of Venus, there's very distinct images where it's very like a sexualizing sort of paper cutout of a goddess over here, and it's very like not real and gritty and in the mud. And I think some people who associate with the feminine archetype, and when we do, we're like, well, I'm gonna go pick one of these like gritty goddesses that's like, you know, naked and in the mud and like scowling. I'm gonna take one of those because Venus is like, what is that? I'm not that, you know, that image of the perfect model or the perfect body. Jesus Venusian energy, absolutely. I want to put the little chart up here again really quick and just show you, we're not talking about houses today, but if we were, the second house is associated with our sense of self-worth and worth in general and value, and Venus is about values. And so the idea you have in your mind when you picture Venus has to do with your sense of feminine or goddess values, artistic values. And if that is something that you would like to see differently, you have the power to change that. But it also is reflective of how we feel about ourself and others through ourself, right? I can't be in relationship with someone in a healthy way if I don't have a healthy relationship with myself. And so it's located in that quadrant of, hey, I need to like know about myself. And you'll notice the other place that Venus is located in the natural chart is the 7th house, which is the house of relationships. So this is, am I enough? And this is, am I enough in relationships? And Venus will bring up those ideas and those triggers for you as you are studying astrology. So love, art, music, dance, theater, all ways that we feel and express. I'm also going to put balance and harmony and self-love, because I think those are really key for Venus. Any questions about Venus, pop them up. The kitty is really wanting to go outside. I'm sorry, Frank. Okay, let's pop up Mercury. And I know I already did a little spoiler before as we were talking about trauma. And it's fun, like Mercury is fun too, because you can actually think of the scientific element Mercury, and it very much applies in this situation. So don't feel limited to just what you think of Mercury as a planet, but think of any associations that come to mind when we talk about any of these things. And on my chart here, I have the mind and I think, thoughts and communication. Mm-hmm. This one's a little bit abstract, but I'm going to put Quicksilver on there. Between worlds. Yes, absolutely. I love that because it's not just messages or communication that is human. It is all forms of communication, ethereal and otherwise. It's body language. It's the way someone looks at you. It's how the energy shifts and changes when you look from place to place. Like right now, I'm looking off the deck and here's a tree and here's a mountain and here's a flower, and my energy and information changes with everything that I see and look at. And that object or that person who's with me changes as I give them attention as well. And so there's more than just my shapes of shifting. Absolutely. That's why I put Quicksilver on there. And then, the winged messenger. So I often think of Mercury as a messenger. We just exited Mercury retrograde, with which a lot of people cry lots of tears about, and oh, Mercury retrograde. And really all that is like, hey, the messages that you want to be receiving and giving, guess what? Those are internal now. Spend some time within, go within, recycle, recharge, revamp, revitalize. And people get into tangles with frustrations around Mercury retrograde when they're trying to be outward, and Mercury's like, I want you to go within, and they're like, no. And then the computer stops working. It's like, well, you were supposed to be meditating. Get off your computer. So Mercury, yeah. All the REs. That's another little cool language trick that I teach for astrology. Rest, relax. An Akashic reading that I had was really, really cool this year, and she described it sort of as like burying yourself in the mud. And that visual to me I've been using it like constantly since then. Not exactly a Mercurier message, but burying yourself in the mud. That's definitely a retrograde. And that applies to any of since we're doing a side note little lesson on retrograde, that applies to any of the planets that are in retrograde. It's about a revolution within. That can stir our souls so that we are either reflecting, in addition to reflecting, we are repositioning ourselves to go forward. It's not a hindrance. It's like, when you prepare for a battle or when you go camping and you spend like, a whole day just packing the car to go out to the countryside. Like that process of being ready and prepared is retrograde, and that's a gift. So see your retrogrades as a gift and use them and harness them. If you have them in your chart as well, that's a lifetime soul purpose focus of recharging that area of your planets or your chart. Cool. All right. Let's move on here. And let's go to the moon, which I think is probably the sun and the moon are probably the easiest ones to talk about because you probably have the most experience in life with those two planets rather than the rest of them. Most of us have more experience with that. So right here, it says instinct and emotion, home, family, feelings, and the sign of Cancer. And I realize I'm saying that, but I didn't draw my cute little arrow. So here we are in the 4th house with the moon. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. These are all great. Night, romance, feminine, silver, blue, subconscious, dream world, past lives, moonlight bathing. Love it. Sunbathing and moonbathing are highly, highly underrated. Changes. Oh, I love that too. The moon, as you know, of everything that we're going to talk about today, changes the most rapidly every 2 to 3 days. And so it does represent the changing and shifting that is needed, especially if you're stuck. Harnessing moon cycles, it can be totally key to getting unstuck. The larger planets move a lot slowly. Even the sun, which moves very quickly, is only once every 28 to 30 days. And so looking at what sign the moon is in and how that applies to different energy and personality can be a way of getting you unstuck quickly. Sun, fire, moon, water. Yes. Moon healing the shadows within. Shadow work, perfect for the moon. Bye, Lisa. It was good to see you. Absolutely. And cool. You can think of, we talked a little bit about trauma. You can think of the moon as the subconscious human part of bringing up stuff to us. Like people will talk about the moon as your emotional nature. And in the past, they would say in astrology, the sun is masculine and the moon is feminine. And that's because the moon is associated with emotions and the sun is associated with identity. And I think for all of us to embrace our father and mother in both our moon and our sun, in both our 4th house and our 10th house, and to integrate those into, it makes me think of the Native American Two Spirit, to have both of those qualities enabled. Because if I have a moon experience in astrology that's so bringing me down to my knees emotionally and I can't stand up and identify and own that, it's not as healing. And the same with my identity and my structure of the sun. If I have an experience with that where I'm not connected to my emotional body or my psychic body, it's not the same experience. And so I will encourage you guys to all integrate those. And then we could do a whole nother segment on the moon itself. So I won't try to talk too much, but since we're in eclipse season, full moons, new moons, eclipses are all great ways of starting a whole new cycle that is a little bit bigger than just the current sign. So we sort of already touched on sun a little bit. So let's keep going with sun. And I already said identity. It is yourself. It is your creativity. It is your expression. It's assertive or outward. It's your individuality. It's also your vitality, or like in Ayurveda, we call it the life force, and how we are able to shine and express. Solar plexus chakra, yes, absolutely. And it's cool because now I'm thinking of all the colors, and all of these have colors associated with them as well. Yes. When I'm most closely connected with source, I'm most of myself, right? I can't be all of myself or authentic if I'm not connected with source energy. Yes, each planet can be linked to the chakras and different tones and different musical notes and different frequencies. And you can, I don't know, have a blast with that spider web of connection. I love that it's female and runic. Gold, yellow, and battery and belly. Absolutely. when you think of a singer using appropriate technique or powerful technique, it doesn't come from the throat, it comes from the belly. And it comes from that core of being connected with our structure, although our throat and mouth and lips are employed and open and not interfering. So it's kind of cool to think that that sun energy is us really expressing at that big, powerful opera singer type level. Okay, so let's go on to Jupiter. One of my favorites because I'm a Sagittarius. Luck, expansion, seeing. And when I say seeing, I mean seeing beyond what is seen. Travel, expansion, exploration. Remember Jupiter and Juno in mythology, but also can think of Jupiter as Zeus energy. Having the power to create. Jupiter is expansion of all kinds. In other words, it's not just positive expansion. I think of Jupiter as like this jolly ass person throwing amazing party for whatever it is you're trying to do. You're like, oh, I'm just trying to be more humble. And Jupiter's like, humble party. Like the streamers say, humility. And like, you know what I mean? It's sort of just like those parts of ourselves or those parts of our life or our experience where we've shrunk and we're small or we're afraid or we're not able to take action. Jupiter's like, let me blow that up for you. And sometimes that can feel crappy, right? It can feel like I feel really small. Jupiter's like, I'm gonna blow that up for you so you can really know what it feels like and maybe feel a little bigger. And you're like, thanks, Jupiter. Now I feel like a tiny squashed bug under my bed crying my eyes out. And Jupiter's like, you're welcome. Which is like something a Sagittarius would do, right? Like say something out of the box to you that isn't necessarily like the easiest way for you to be helped, but it's the most direct way. And it's the way to get you there right now and feel it. And so think of when things are expanding, like problems or traumas or hard things that get bigger and bigger, just take a breath and a moment and remember that is the universe helping me to deal with this now and not ignore it, right? And to create a shift in my vibration that can go from crying on the floor to party out in the backyard. That's what Jupiter wants for you. And it's always coming from this source of good intention, like when we miserably fail. I have a diagram, Matthew, and you'll have to email me and remind me to find it with the chakras and the planets. And I can maybe email it to Alexis too in case anyone else wants it. Music, travel, orange, fire, warmth. Yes. Expansion. It's another interdimensional one. And it's sort of like when you think of like personal development, Jupiter it's letting loose and letting go of whatever needs to happen so that I can create a structure. So, you know, Saturn comes afterwards. I don't sort of like create a structure and then I get to be free and express within the structure. No, I get to like completely be without any hinges, without any limitations. And that informs my structure that I will build. You know, like if you're starting a new business or you're starting a new love relationship, everything out of the box, no rules, no boundaries, free expression. And then we say, okay, cool. Well, this one was really facilitated for my business, or this one was really facilitated for our harmony in this relationship. And then we sort of build a Saturnian structure. But we can't be Jupiter within a box or within a building or within an institution. That's not how Jupiter operates. And you can see by what a big boy he is in the sky. He's like, what? Big and bright. You don't get that way by being hidden and stuck in your basement. So let me share again. And I'll point to Saturn. Right here. So we think of being out in the world, the father figure or the parent who is out in the world the most. So stay-at-home dad, stay-at-home mom, but the parent that is out there providing and creating safety and making sure everybody's taken care of. It could be mom, it could be dad, it could be both. But it requires discipline and limitation and structure in order to create, I would call it like a legacy. What Capricorn and what Saturn can do is to create a legacy, not just a structure that is blown away by the wind, or a structure that is only facilitating one modality or one certain person or one certain type of people. And you all have been feeling Saturnian energy through the last year for sure. 2020 was a very Saturnian Pluto year where we all had to challenge structures and institutions and patriarchy and medicine and the way that we feel safe in the world, and just being in our homes, being in our own personal structures so much more than in the past. Yes, Saturn line. Oh, somebody talked about lines. If you don't know about this, you can go to astro.com and create a astro map. You can also do a session with me and I can create astro maps and moving charts and all that kind of stuff. But it basically draws these lines across the whole world, and you can choose to live or visit a place that has your Saturn line or your Jupiter line or whatever energy that we're talking about, all these energies to focus on them. And it's amazing. I think you probably all experienced it where you travel somewhere that you've never been and you're like, and you have this experience, whether it's past life or the energy that resonates so differently from where you came from or where you've been. Yes, high vibe, perfection, advanced wisdom, a little scary because of awe and grace, kind of elusive. Yeah, it's like having a relationship with Saturn is creating the ideal father, parent, mentor, old sage that knows all the stuff and can help you delineate it. It's getting in touch with the fact that that is present in who we are and has been here all along. So if you think of like, in this life, I'm Emery and I do these things, but in a past life, maybe I was like king of the land, and in a different past life, I was a martyr. And adding all of those wisdoms and structures and being my own sort of father of my soul with that information to help me move forward in the way that would best facilitate my healing is a really cool model for Saturn and Saturn events. And Saturn, when we get to Saturn, we're starting to move a bit slower. Like Jupiter's cycle is about 12 years. Saturn is around 30 years. And so because the cycles are slower, you can harness these energies in quarters, like Saturn square, Saturn opposition, Saturn square, and then Saturn conjunction. So there's like different periods of Saturn that are about like every 7 years or so. There's always different Saturn cycles that you're in. So if you're somebody who is building or restructuring, or leaving a structure that you've been in all your life, or like Alexis spoke to, having a different structure than the family of origin, those Saturn cycles are really helpful to figure out where you are in as far as creating and shifting and building your own legacy. Cool. So let's go on to Uranus. He's right there. Oops. I like to use the automatic line because I don't draw very straight lines. So Uranus and Aquarius are linked, the 11th house as well, which is wishes and hopes and dreams and friends. And you can see originality and change. I would put remember we talked about Uranus as being a higher octave of Mercury. So if you think of all the things we stated with Mercury that are not just one-dimensional, to add those onto your Uranus list, when I'm operating in my highest frequency, I'm able to communicate not just in Mercury, but in Uranus, which means I could just like stare weirdly at Jessica and we could have a vibe and be communicating something like in this other plane and lane and planet while we're talking about astrology here. But we're actually like vibing here and we're like saying, all this other cool stuff that's in support of her business that she's starting or the trauma that she's experienced. We're like vibing. And you feel that way. There's people, for me, there's people I want to be around and I don't have to speak with them, but we're like vibing and we're creating worlds, and there is like some stuff happening, and it's so comforting to me. It's like that same feeling you get when somebody, like, they get it and they're a nice human on the planet and they're interacting in a way that helps save the planet and doesn't destroy it. And you're like, that's wonderful. You exist. I'm not the only one. Uranus is that way on a very high mind level and a high spirituality level, if you allow it to be. I teach a class called Out of the Box, and that's a really great phrase for Uranus. So is the word oblique. You don't get to relate to it in geometric shapes that you're familiar with. It's, like abstract art. And higher wisdom from all sources. So when you think of star seeds and Arcturian worlds and places that have information that we can harness if we are open to it, whether it's a deep shamanic journey below to the underworld, or whether it's getting Lemurian starseed information through a meditation, Uranus is very helpful for that. It's kind of like, if you think of Mercury as a tiny strand of electrical thread, and think of Uranus as a pipeline, that you can actually dive into that, and it's bigger in that way. And once you're able to open to the Uranus, it's like, I don't know, it's a crazy ride, man. It's like, what is the tea they go drink in South America or whatever? That thing that, yeah, I've seen people posting about it recently. But it's like this tax attorney goes to South America and drinks this crazy fermented mushroom tea and then quits the job and becomes like a yoga teacher. Like they enter this pipeline. Yeah, ayahuasca. Thank you. I couldn't find the word. Higher wisdom, harmony in the heart feeling. When we think of the sun as being expression, it's the expected expression that our soul has decided. And Uranus is every expression that we could possibly be at one time, all happening at once. So like I'm in drag and I'm doing a hula hoop and I'm giving a lecture, and I just had sex and I cried and I went to church and I screamed at you and you screamed at me and we made food, and all of that is like happening in a simultaneous way is Uranus. And also the interdimensional feelings we get when that's deja vu and this is happening somewhere else in a different way at the same time, that's Uranus too. So I like to think of it as a portal opening, and it's also trauma in the chart. So if you're working with trauma, looking for your Uranus and your aspects to Uranus can help you harness healing of trauma in the chart. And it especially ancestral and past lives and things that we need to break free from. So breaking free, all the breaking words: breaking down, breaking through, breaking up. What do you need to break up with? Not just relationships or people, but, I'm going to break up with that Starbucks latte because I'm going to make my own organic latte at home, whatever. It's breaking up. And I mean that in like a evolved, wise way, not an impulsive way. The seeming impulsivity of Uranus is not. It is calculated and wise and accessing the wisdom of many dimensions and many worlds and all of our history all at once. So people that sort of don't get Uranus or Uranus activity, their lens has grown too small, and you have to widen the lens to see it. So revolutions often are Uranus. There's a big group of people that don't get it. That's why there has to be a revolution. Okay, 5 minutes. I shall hurry. And okay, so let's do Neptune. And since this is a spiritual class, Neptune is a great one. As I said, Uranus is a higher octave of Mercury. Neptune is a higher octave of Venus. So when we think about relationship with ourself and our self-love and our ability to connect with other humans in the Venus expression, Neptune is our ability to connect to source, to all that is, to every type of expression that anyone could ever be without judgment, with release from fear, with a loving, open, ecstatic embrace. And higher octave, I mean like a higher expression, an expression that isn't just in one dimension. So not just human, not just metaphysical, not just intellectual, but using all of the 4 body systems, using all of the, not just the main 7 chakras, but to go beyond that to the other layers and the auric dimensions that are available to us. And I also just mean a higher level. And I don't mean that by judgment. I mean that mastery in one area can lead to greater mastery. Like if I don't love myself, it's hard for me to be in a relationship. And if I don't also love people, how am I supposed to love like the whole world? Like, got to work my way up the ladder kind of thing. Not with any judgment, but just with like, lessons. So it's spirituality versus illusion. Neptune can be cloudy or dreamy or ethereal or unclear. And that's because true understanding of spirituality leaves us with questions, not answers. And so Neptune isn't here to give you a solid answer on what you should do to refinance your home. Neptune is here to create a lot of questions. And living in the question is a really great phrase for that. And the beauty of the question. Yes, watery. If you know anything about the sign of Pisces, it's very much associated with Pisces, which I always describe as the ocean. The ocean holds everything. Shipwrecks and oil spills and little tiny fish and giant sharks and insolent humans and fishing boats and just everything you could possibly imagine. And the ocean doesn't judge or disseminate or qualify. It's just like, come on in. I'm here with my waves. I'm shifting the moon and the gravity, and I'm right here. Like I'm a part of this huge, greater thing. And yes, you can come swim in me with your duck floaties. So there's space and love for everything. Yes, living in the now, being very present with the emotional and psychic connection that is here. And we'll finish up with Pluto here. Just a couple minutes on Pluto. Pluto's also associated with Scorpio. So I know there's some Scorpio signs in what you all were describing. Scorpio, 8th house. Pluto is our choice of transformation versus trauma. So in the chart, Uranus is where we can find links to our trauma and how to heal it. Pluto is like, would you like to live this mission or be traumatized? Would you like to live this mission? And there's no middle ground. There's no gray area. There's no maybe I'll do it Sunday instead. It's very impending and large and heavy. And if you feel like you might die, that's Pluto energy. Oh my gosh, I can't go to the grocery store, I might die. Or I can't be in this relationship, I might. That's Pluto asking a lot of you. And I always think of the chart as our soul said, I'm going to do these things. And here's how I do it, right? And the chart's like, here's how you get it done. And you're like, okay, great. And our little orbs jump down the chute and we're ready to go experience. And then we get here and we're like, oh my gosh, like, whoa. And it's sort of like Pluto is that impending doom factor. And I don't mean it in a negative way. It's unignorable and it's deep. And if all of you are here, I bet all of you have Plutonian experiences, either regularly or have had at least one major one in your life that was very impactful. So trauma versus transformation. No middle ground. It's often experienced with death and rebirth. And since I'm now giving you opposites and dichotomies, I can just say that every planet and every sign in astrology has the ability of having all those sides. The light and the dark, the shadow and the electricity and the dampening. So that yes, Phoenix, perfect. Phoenix from the ashes. They tried to demote Pluto and Pluto wasn't having it. Pluto was like, good luck with that. But absolutely, Pluto has come into play a lot in the United States as of late because the United States is experiencing their Pluto return. And you've seen all the glorious stuff the United States has been going through the past year with the initiation of that. I think of Pluto as being able to go to hell and back and having that all be inside of you and holding that, like we were saying, to not be in judgment or to repress, but to be with what we're going through. And that's very Plutonian. Waking up with the weight of the world on your shoulders and standing up and facing it and embracing it. And like going on, like we're not dying, but we could die at any minute. Like that's how big it is. And coming together with your Pluto people. So if you're Pluto in Libra, Pluto in Virgo, find your Pluto sign, and that 10-year span or so of those generation of people are coming together powerfully for that purpose, and you can evolve and change and transform with them. And it's much easier than trying to go on your own. So I'll leave that open to any other questions, and then encourage you all to continue the writing exercise on your own, or we could do an email chain or whatever y'all feel comfortable with. I think Alexis posted the links for the Swimming in Stars astrology group that I have on Facebook as well. That's also a place we could start a little thread and discussion and kind of go crazy with this if y'all want more. So hopefully that wasn't too many words. Thank you so much, Alexis, for having me, and excited to work with you all on harnessing your energies.
Thank you, Emery. That was great. There was a lot of food for thought. A couple of things that you said really resonated with me about the retrograde, and how, you know, everybody's like, oh, it's Mercury retrograde, I'm going to stay under the duvet for the rest of my life until it's over. Well, this new perception that you've presented of, you know, going within, I love that. I love that. We don't have to be scared of it. We can have a different experience. And also about knowing where the moon is, you know, and seeing what sign it's in, or the sun for that matter, right? There's so much about the planets that I didn't know. Thank you, Emery. That was awesome. So I would like to just remind anybody that isn't part of the Sacred Segments group on Facebook to please join, and that way you get informed a little quicker than the email about, you know, what's happening next. On July the 8th, I wanted to let you know that there is a guest called Kedrick Olson, who is a paranormal specialist, and he's been on Gaia TV a lot, and he's an amazing Scandinavian oracle worker, if you know what I mean. He works with the runes and singing them into being, and using the runes for manifestation. So he's going to be on Sacred Segments on July the 8th. So please join for that. It's going to be exciting. Same time. So before I hand over to Greta, I would like to ask another question. I'm going to put this to the group about what's one habit that you know you need to drop to become the best version of yourself. I'm just going to say that again. What's one habit that you need to that you need to drop to become the best version of yourself? And I'll answer first. It's a tough one, right? One habit that you need to drop. I think it's being negative for me. And even though, you know, I teach positive thinking, and I'm like always, I'm all about the positive, you know, I've only arrived at that because I'm actually quite a negatively programmed person, you know, probably because of my upbringing. I think quite negatively sometimes, and I have to really kind of like remember all of my training in realigning myself to positive thinking. So that's probably mine. Anna, what about you?
The first thought, so I'm going to go with it, is that, well, I have basically a sleep disorder, kind of because of trauma, but it's gotten, this particular habit doesn't help, and it's to stay up very, very, very late. I mean, I am a night owl by nature, and I embrace it, and I think it's fine. Some people are morning people. I'm a night owl, and I'm cool with that. But it's gotten like I'm going over the past few years, I'm going to bed like later and later and later. Like all of a sudden it's 5 a.m. because I feel like that's my time for me. But I know that it impacts my ability to get going on my day. I mean, I've always been very slow in the morning, but it's not helping. It's not in balance. Let's just put it
What
that way.
time were you born, Anna?
6:33 p.m.
Okay, because I have this crazy theory that, like, you know, the time that you're born is like when you kind of come alive. I was born at like 2:30 in the morning, and I feel like, oh, it's my time. That's when I come alive.
Well, it's 6:30 is when I really I'm at my best. So when I do
Yeah.
sessions, I like to do them like in the late afternoon, early evening, because I'm like, woohoo, you know.
Yeah, it's interesting. I hear you. And Chantel, thank you for typing. I hear you, what you're saying about, you know, reluctant to be consistently physically active. Right with you on that one. Yeah, there's always that resistance, isn't there? There's oh, you know, maybe I won't, or maybe I will. But when you do it, you feel great, right? Anna, thanks for sharing that. Matthew's saying he was born at 5:28 and he's active at 10 p.m. Funny. Okay, Jessica, how about you?
I'm kind of with Chantel. I need to move. That's my biggest thing. I need to get moving my body. When I do it, I feel better. I notice a change with things. I've got more energy. Waking up in the morning, early in the morning, isn't so bad.
Yeah.
When I exercise, when I move my body. Yeah, the body movement is the big one.
Yes, yeah. And this past year has been hard, right? Like in just staying in. How about you, Emery? Thanks, Jessica.
I just, full disclaimer, I have to say the same. Like the last year has been really hard. I'm somebody who really benefits from physical activity and movement, and the amount that I've done, I mean, this past week has been great, but I mean, getting the body moving, and especially moving in nature or with other humans when possible to share in that energetic build.
And it's so powerful when we do, right? Just yesterday, you know, I went to the park with Carisha, who some of you know from this group. And it was so lovely just being in nature. So powerful. When we're in there, we're like, why don't we do this all of the time? Thanks, Emery. Greta, how about you?
Yeah, the habit that I would like to change into something more productive is I get to work without having reflected, without having focused. So I just start doing something.
Wow.
But it might not be the best thing to do. So, and I have all these to-do lists everywhere.
Yeah.
So to do something about that, I actually bought a book. And it's
that's beautiful.
There is a book by James Clear called Atomic Habits, which I really recommend. And this book is based on atomic habits, and it's a habit tracker. So I've decided that all my Post-its and to-do lists and stuff are going in here. So now before I start working, I'm going to go to my to-do lists that all are in here and prioritize. And two, I want to comment on the movement. Yeah. So I noticed that my husband and I make each other better. We wake up in the morning, we have coffee in bed. One of us wakes up first and makes the coffee, whoever is the most awake. And then the other one is woken up by coffee in bed. Very nice. And then we go work out. And when we're together, it's just automatic. So we do it first thing in the morning. There's no thinking, you just do it. And we do Beachbody on demand. So it's like there's a trainer with us just telling us what to do. And we have a gym in our building here. And in Norway, we have weights in our house. So there's like, you don't have to go anywhere. You just wear your workout outfit and go. And when he's not here, like if he starts work really early and I have to work out on my own, it can be a little harder. I notice. So
When-
I'm in bed for longer on my phone, and maybe I'm posting something on Instagram, and that's good for my work. But hey, I'm just making up excuses and procrastinating from going to the gym.
When you say that you have that personal trainer thing, is that like on the phone?
Yeah, so Beachbody on Demand. I don't know if you can get that in the UK. You can get it in the
Okay.
US, and it's a whole lot of workout programs, and they have a lot of great ones. So it's like it's like you're in class, and he's telling you exactly what to do. And I just love it because he's like, come on now, get your weights up, start moving. And it's like you're not taking the long breaks, and when it's done, and you don't have to think. So I
Cool.
love that. And you can
Cool.
find classes on YouTube also for all sorts of workouts, but I just love those.
Great. And thanks, Greta. Matthew, how about you?
So yeah, I've been forcing myself to like go in the garden, do things because I have a to-do list myself and have been overwhelmed. And like this evening when I get done with clients, I'm gonna go do the PIA, which is a beach body program that I have with DVDs. But for right now, I've been struggling with self-doubt. So working on that.
Yeah, I think we all suffer with that at various points in our lives, right? And you know, mirror work is great for that, as is positive affirmation, and you know, listening to recorded stuff and surrounding yourself with positive people and positive influences, whether that be through videos or just, you know, a friend or comedy, even anything that raises your vibration, like walking in nature. Thanks for sharing, Matthew. And Greta, I just want to go back to something that you said about before, you know, rather than just doing something. It was quite inspiring in reminding me just to have that little bit of an intentionality before doing an activity can totally transform your experience, right?
Yeah.
You know, and actually having an intention, like Abraham talks about segment intending, and we've talked about this on other groups a lot. And I know that you're into Abraham a lot, like me, Greta. But segment intending is so powerful, and just having that book is a great idea. Or just having an intention before you do an activity and sitting and getting really, really still.
Yeah.
And then doing the activity. So before I hand over to you, Greta, I would invite us all to just get very, very still and take a deep breath. Thank you so much, Emery, for your work today. That was beautiful. I'm going to be quiet just for a moment. Let's just sit and breathe just for a few seconds. And Greta, when you feel the time is right, I would like you to take over.
As we're going into this, I want to remind us of Esther's to-do list, Esther Hicks. So she has a to-do list that has two parts. One side is, out of all the things on my big to-do list, what are the things that I actually intend to and want to do today? That's one side. The other side is the things I want the universe to take care of for me. And that's everything else. And I really love that. And I've seen when I do that, for instance, I need to get in touch with this person, but I'm putting it on the universe's side, and they will call me. It's really, really wonderful to do that. And it's such, it's like a lightening of the burden, because you're giving it to the universe, giving it to God, however you want to phrase it, but it's no longer your job. So I really like that.
I found that really, really works for me as well, is that, you know, when you say handing it over like that, you know, just trusting the infinite power, organizing power of the universe So powerful.
And I guess it ties in with what Anna said about you need to ask for the help. And writing that to-do list for the universe is actually asking for help to get this done. Because I don't know about you guys, but I tend to have way more on my want to-do lists than I can possibly manage on my own. And I also tend to be a little bit time, what is that? Like, I think I can get more done than actually is possible. So like I finish something and I'm like, it's finished and the day's over and there are 3 more things. What? So then just letting that go and be happy that you actually got that one thing done. So what are we doing today? And I think maybe we're starting out with movement. And what I recently found out myself was I put on some weight last year together with like the whole world. And I had so much trouble releasing it. Like working out every day, eating like an angel, and it just stayed on. And at some point I realized that this is our collective consciousness we all gained weight and the gyms closed and COVID made us all bigger. And so I just consciously released that. And so I think just releasing those ideas and opening up to the possibilities, like, okay, so maybe the gym is closed, but what can you actually do? And who can you connect with to keep you accountable? Can you make a plan to go walking with someone once a week or twice a week, or exercising or moving your body? Or what can you do for 3 minutes? Like Zach Bush has this amazing 4-minute exercise just to get your lymph fluid moving, which is like a great way to move because it won't move unless there is movement. So I'm thinking of releasing whatever emotions are blocking us from being motivated and like propelled to move, and not having to force ourselves and push ourselves and just wanting to do it. Okay, I'm just gonna get my emotions list. So for anyone who isn't familiar with this modality, it's called the emotion code, and it's been brought to the world by Dr. Bradley Nelson, who's a chiropractor. And he developed the emotion code because he saw that his patients came for a correction, did the correction, they were fine, came back 2 weeks later with the same problem. So he figured there must be something else causing these misalignments. And he found out it was trapped negative emotions. So you experience something painful in your life and a negative emotion comes up. And if it's not processed and allowed time to just be experienced and release, then it might get trapped. And a trapped emotion is like this little ball of trapped negative energy. And let's say I trap one right here. Because my cells are intelligent, they will shy away from anything negative. So if I have a trapped negative emotion here, then my tissues might want to move this way. And that causes a misalignment. So I release that trapped emotion, my tissues can relax and come back into alignment, and I might be fine. So this can help with physical pain issues, and it can also help with any mental relationships, abundance, you name it. Emotions can block you from achieving the happiness that you want. So let's release some. Okay, so is it okay for everyone that I connect to the energy of the group? And thank you, Anna. Awesome, so good. My name is Greta, my name is the group. Good, so what is a trapped emotion that we can release for all of us that is going to make it effortless and fun and amazing and easy for us to be motivated to move our bodies? And the first emotion that comes up is self-abuse. And this emotion can be negative self-talk, and it can also be not taking care of your physical body like you know you should, or should like you know you would want to, because it's through your physical body that you get to experience this fun reality that we're in. So I'm just giving you a second to acknowledge if any memory, person, thing comes up for you that this might be related to. And then we're going to release it. And the way we do it is by taking a magnet or your hand, placing it at your third eye, and rolling 3 times towards the back of your neck with the intention of releasing the trapped emotion of self-abuse. Was it released? Yeah. And what's so cool about releasing negative trapped emotions is that your point of attraction is equal to the thought plus the emotion, or all of your thoughts and all of your emotions. So by releasing a negative emotion, you're increasing, you're raising your vibrational point of attraction. So now you attract less circumstances, events, people to feel the negative emotion of self-abuse about. Does that make sense? So we've already created a change that's going to make your life better. So let's see what else we can do. What else can we release to make it really easy for us to be inspired to move our bodies? Stubbornness. Yeah. Oh, I see some beautiful smiles here. I love it. Just acknowledge whatever comes up. And can we release? Yes. So let's release this trapped emotion of stubbornness. Good. And was it released? Yeah. Awesome. Is there anything else we can release to help us be motivated to move? Defensiveness. It's interesting. This is the third emotion so far that's in the area that oftentimes is trapped in our lungs. And you know, exercising and moving, we need our lung capacity, and this pandemic has affected the world's lungs, you know, so it's interesting. Okay, so defensiveness. Oh, and to me, what comes up is when people ask me if I'm pregnant, and that makes me feel like they're asking me or commenting on me looking fat, and I don't enjoy that. Okay, so can we release? Yeah. So let's release this trapped emotion of defensiveness. Good. Was it released? Yeah. Oh, I'm just feeling the need to defend how my body looks. And like, no, it's none of anyone's business. You're perfect, and you're perfect, and you're perfect, and you're perfect, and you're you. All of you are perfect just the way you are. So knowing that, there is no need for that defensiveness. Is there anything else we can release for this? Resentment. Let's release this trapped emotion of resentment. 3 swipes. Wonderful. Is it released? Yeah. Okay. And is there a trapped emotion of self-doubt that we can release? Yeah. So let's release that. Yeah, let's release this emotion of self-doubt. And let's keep swiping and replace it with self-confidence, absolute knowing that you can do whatever you decide, and just relaxing into knowing that you're good enough, and that You have all the wisdom you need, all the knowledge you need, all the time you need. And you now have just the urge to move your body. Yeah. Good. And we're all just moving. This is so beautiful. Okay, good. So was that self-doubt released? Yeah. Good. Does anything come up for anyone? Any thoughts, anything you want me to ask to release an emotion?
Something came up for me.
Yeah.
I've been having this shoulder pain that just came on from nowhere.
Mhm.
And I was wondering whether it's an emotion, like a
Mhm.
trapped emotion.
Okay, so let's do that. Does anyone else have shoulder pain? Okay, so let's do that for Alexis. So my name is Alexis. Okay, do you have a trapped emotion contributing to this shoulder pain, Alexis, that we can release now? Guilt. Your trapped emotion of guilt. And we can release that for you. So 3 swipes to release this guilt. Good, and that's released. All right, so I'm getting connect to the whole group again, and wherever you have pain, so it's your right knee, if it's your neck, for me, it's the right side of my neck. Wherever you have pain, go to that area of your body right now in your mind. And I'm going to ask on behalf of the group, what's an emotion we can release to help release any pain or tightness that you have in your body right now. So we all have an inherited trapped emotion. Let's see what it is. It's an inherited emotion of creative insecurity. And that means doubting one's ability to create a livelihood, a relationship, whatever it is, art, dinner, whatever you're creating. And this is inherited. So what's interesting with inherited emotions is it's not just one line. So it's the whole family tree, right? That kind of inherited this emotion. And when we name it, they're all here. All past generations, all future generations. So it might be pretty crowded here right now, but they're all really happy that we're going to release this trapped emotion. So since it's a lot of work, a lot of people, this needs 10 swipes. And can we do that? Yeah, so let's release this trapped emotion of creative insecurity. 10 swipes. Yeah. Was it released from all past, present, and future generations and all of us? Yes. Good. Before I go on, Alexis, how much time do I have?
Well, let's say 5 more minutes.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So what is another trapped emotion we can release to help all of us release any pain or tightness in that part of your body where you can feel it? Okay. Okay, shame. Just acknowledge it. Mine's right here, pulsating in my heart area. So let's release this trapped emotion of shame. Good. Is it released? Yeah. Okay, what else? Okay, yeah, Matthew, anger. And when I said it, I had this like internal primal scream, you know, like on a mountaintop or something, just releasing into the world for transformation, transmutation. Okay, can we release this trapped emotion of anger? Yeah, you can. 3 swipes to release this trapped emotion of anger. Really good. And with that, I just felt more innocent for some reason. It was very nice. Good. Anything else? Discouragement. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit heavy. Moving around, being a little bit mischievous, this discouragement. So let's release it. 3 swipes. And that's released. So one more. What emotion can we release to release that tightness or pain that you've been feeling? Last emotion to release is defensiveness. And even just feeling defensive around the sensation, like the need for it to go away. Just let that go. Yeah, just let's release that. Good. Was that released? Yes. Okay, so before I give back to Alexis, I'm just curious, did anyone feel anything, feel any emotion, feel release? I don't know. I'm just curious. You can unmute yourself or write in the chat. Any difference in how you're feeling, tightness, whatever it is?
I feel much lighter.
Okay, good. I see you nodding too, Jessica. Good.
Lighter, relaxed. I could go to sleep right now. I know we're supposed to move, but it's like that sleep, and then I can get up and go and do it.
Good. Thank you for sharing. And Chantal, if you need to go and you need to go now because you want to walk, or you're just telling us of your shift, thank you. And that's a great idea, walking instead of driving. Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for being part of our collective group energy and helping us all release whatever needs to be released. Thank you. Thank you, Chantal. Hope to see you soon. Love you.
Thank you so much, Greta. As always, that was fabulous. And, you know, something occurred to me when we were doing the swiping, and I may have mentioned it to you in the past, but it happened to really sort of be very prominent in my mind. And that was, I've mentioned to you, the healing technique that I learned is called the King technique, and it involves swiping. When you're swiping the condition off, like if you're dealing with anything, whatever it is, from cancer to, you know, like a pain in a particular area of the body, it starts with either 7, 14, or 21 passes, and you use both hands from the top of the neck. And it reminded me of that healing modality. And after they swipe, they teach to visualize the violet flame to burn up the energy. And I thought that this would be a really beautiful addition that we could just do momentarily now, to just visualize the violet flame just coming up. And you can see like this color, or the edges of the wings in this angel background. This is the color to visualize as just coming up, and just any conditions that we might have pulled off, let's just burn it up in this violet fire, see it transmuting and just vibrating up into the heavens and just becoming something beautiful. So let's just spend a moment just doing that, taking a deep breath and just giving love and gratitude to all the beings assisting in this transmutation, and being thankful to the Mother Earth in humility and gratitude for her violet flame of transmutation. Thank you. And thank you so much, Greta, for this. Thank you, Emery, for your work today. Thank you, everybody, for your participation. I would like to close this session with just going around the group and saying two things, and that is one that you would like to manifest, for which I will give you an affirmation, and the second thing, something that you're grateful for. So would anybody like to start? Just raise your hands. Go for it, Greta.
I am grateful for my home that I'm in right now. I'm grateful that it's everything I wanted to manifest, and I'm grateful that it came to me exactly like I wanted it to. And what I want to manifest is a new home. That's everything I want, and where I will be supported in, being my best self.
I am aligned with Source. Therefore, I now align with my perfect new home. I am aligned with Source. Therefore, I now align with my perfect, supportive new home. You could add the word supportive. Yeah. Thank you, Greta. Anybody else would like to go next? Raise your hand. Or shall I pick you? Jessica, would you like to go next?
I am always thankful for life. And as far as what I'm manifesting, I'm still I know what it is. I know the far, far future. I know what it's supposed to look like for all of us. But I don't know what what I'm trying to manifest into this right now is.
And that's perfect because, being in a state of, pure potential is exactly where you need to be right now, and you don't have to know. So just being in that place of grace and receiving is enough. And I would like to give you the affirmation, I am enough. Right here, right now. Thank you for being here, Jessica.
Thank you. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, pleasure. Anna, with your golden glow.
It's funny because what Greta said, mine is the same, different circumstances, entirely different circumstances and situation, but essentially the exact same thing.
Right.
What both I'm grateful for and what I'm manifesting or what I want to manifest. And with the new home, it's like one that's very stable and talk about Saturn, right? Something that gives me a firm foundation to build from.
I'm secure, safe, and stable. And so grateful that my new home is on its way. and get a feeling of excitement as you step into that.
Thank you.
Matthew.
For me, the gratitude is I am grateful that I have a steady rate of clients, and I'm grateful that my body is in alignment and healthy. For the manifesting, probably just a friend or potential partner, so somebody I can do things with when and have balance between myself, my business, and relationships.
Okay, so what I'm hearing for you is I step into the fullness and magnificence of who I am right now. I step into the fullness and magnificence of who and where I am right now. And in that completeness, then all is already here. There is no separateness, there's no lacking. That end part wasn't meant to be part of the affirmation. I was just adding that on as a little tagline. But you heard it, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for being here tonight. Yeah, thank you, Matthew. Emery, I love your background.
Oh, I had to change for the violet flame.
I love that. Yeah, it's gorgeous.
The Arcturians. My grateful is opportunities for healing and grace and acceptance and change. Very grateful in gratitude for those opportunities. And my manifestation that I would like is freedom.
What I'm hearing is I am a celestial star, and I have all the space and all the freedom that I need now. And just to see yourself in the vastness of space, surrounded by magnificence and freedom and expansion and growth, and the birthing of a star is both full and empty. It's waiting to be, and it always was and always is. So just to connect with that feeling of you being that star now. Did you get that?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. And I'm really grateful for just connecting with beautiful souls all over the globe with you all. So grateful for this opportunity, and I look forward to connecting with you again, I hope. And if not, then I'm so grateful for what is, and hope to see you on July the 8th, which is a really holy day because it's Earth Day.
Alexis,
Greta, yes.
what are you manifesting?
I am manifesting peace in my body and my being.
Okay, I have an affirmation for you.
Oh, thank you. Yes, please.
I am pure positive love energy.
I need that so much. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Could you say it again so that I can make a note of it, please?
I am pure positive love energy.
Thank you so much, Greta.
You're welcome.
Well, see you all soon. Lovely to see your faces. Good night, and have a beautiful rest of the day. Lots of love. Love you all.
Thank you guys. Love you.
Bye.
Bye.
Lots of love. Bye bye.